Hi students, this message is to, or this video is to teach you how to make your custom mug for somebody else. So we're going to start by clicking on create a new design, and we're going to rename that design custom mug. Now we're not going to make this full size here. We're going to keep it small just to keep it a little simpler. So we're going to start by dragging a cylinder into the area, zooming in on it, and then noticing that there are rough sides to it, and we want to smooth out the sides by increasing the number of sides in the setting to the maximum, which is 64. Okay, that gives you a nice smooth cylinder here. Now, secondly, we need to make a second cylinder here that's a little smaller than this. We might as well, since we've already smoothed this one, we might as well, while it's selected, go ahead and use the duplication tool up here. So when I duplicate it, it made a copy, and I can drag that copy out of the way. And we want to turn this into a hole. Now, while it's a hole, we don't want it the same size. We want it a little smaller than this. So we're going to use that trick we learned where we hold the shift button down, and we're going to pull the top down a couple of notches until it gives us the number 18 millimeters. If you were good about holding the shift button down, you'll notice it's not just 18 in height, but it's also 18 in width and length. It's 18 by 18 by 18. So now we've got the hole we need. So now we need to center it and line it up at the top. So the easiest way to do that is with the alignment tool. So we need to select both of these by dragging a box around it. Now that both are selected, we can turn on the alignment tool. Remember, the alignment tool is this one that looks like a bar graph. When we click on align, we want to line them up left to right and front to back. But the trick here is when we look at it from the side and we see the vertical alignment tools, the ones that align top to bottom, we want to line up our hole with the top. So we're going to use a top alignment on that and then press group. And when we group it, we should notice here that we've got a perfectly hollowed out mug. It should be perfectly centered. If it's not centered, ungroup it and then realign it. Okay. Secondly, we need to create some sort of handle on the side here. We need like a C shape to this. So there's lots of ways you can do that. You could use a box to cut a torus or a tube in half. You could use the letter U. But yesterday during second period, a student found, or I believe first period, a student found an awesome shape generator. So you need to go down to, not in basic shapes, but to a different category. If we go to shape generators all, and then scroll down to page, I believe it's on page 8. At the top of page 8, there's this donut slice tool right here. And if we click on that, it's already the shape we want it. Now this is going to require some rotation. So you watched a rotation tool video on Monday to remind you how to do that. I find that it's easiest to use the rotation tool while I'm zoomed in pretty far, and I can be sure to click on the rotation tool. When you're rotating, I would try to make sure that you keep the rotation inside the blue circle so it makes those jumps, and then make it to 90 degrees. So since it doesn't really matter what side of this it goes on, let's put it so it's already lined up in this direction. So here, I can now from the side here, move it over so it's lined up in this direction. And then look at it from the side and pull it in this direction. And then I'm going to have to lift it up a bit and maybe resize it a tiny bit so it fits. There's some settings on this where you can make it a little smaller or bigger. Here in the settings, you could play with that if you want. You do want to inspect it from multiple points of view to make sure it's lined up where you want it to be. So that looks pretty good from the top, from the side, from the back here, and that looks good. So I'm going to add that to the group. Okay, so far so good. We've got that. Now, remember, you're making this mug for somebody else. So we are going to place an SVG file on the inside here, and that's going to require you to go to another website. That's going to require you to go to the Noun project. That's linked in the assignment. And when you go to the Noun project, you're going to click on Login. And if you haven't already, you're going to type in very carefully davidsonmakers@gmail.com. That's also written the login information in our lesson from yesterday. And our password is Cougars1, all lowercase. And when we log in, that will work. If it doesn't work for you, check your spelling. The account does work. And then you want to think, what is a neat idea for an icon for somebody when you see it from the bottom? So, for instance, my wife loves squirrels. So I'm going to type in squirrel, I in there, and see what comes up. And we've got a squirrel. Now I like, I think I'm going to get a better result from something that's a little more filled in. So I'm going to choose this squirrel. And then if we're logged in using the class account, you should have a big blue SVG button. If you don't see the SVG button, that means you're not logged in properly. So check that. Okay, so I'm going to click on SVG, and that will download that down here or to my downloads folder. So now we're going to go back to the design here, and we're going to click on the import button. So we're going to pull in a 2D file. So when it asks you here to choose a file, we can either drag this up and in, or we can click on choose a file if you can't see that at the bottom of your Chrome. And it will ask you where that file is, and most likely it got saved to your downloads folder. So I'm going to click on my downloads folder. There it is, Noun Project Squirrel. I'm going to click on that and then click import. Now it almost certainly will be way, way too big. Yep, way too big. So I'm going to back up here and I'm going to shrink this sucker down. Way, way down. I'm actually going to rotate this squirrel so it looks a little more it's facing the person. Okay, now I'm going to line, whoops, undo that. I'm going to line this up manually here so it's centered in the middle right there. Let's look at it from above. Maybe shrink that down a tiny bit. And we're going to finish by grouping that. All right. So I'm going to end up with a mug that has a surprise squirrel at the bottom of it. Let's pull that away and see. And there's our mug. All right. Make sure you click on Mark as Done when you're done. Hope this helped.